the Blackout Podcast.
Hi, Cassie.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on my podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
First off, I want to start with, what were you building yesterday?
Oh, in the studio up in the valley.
Yeah.
Yes. Yesterday, I was at the studio DevOFX, and we were doing a life cast of a gentleman that wanted to work on a certain cosplay. And so to do that, we had to cover his entire torso, head, and arms in alginate, which is what you use to make molds of for dental dentures at a dentist.
Okay.
They flood the plates, shove in your mouth, you have a mold of your teeth. We were doing the exact same thing to him. So then when we fill that alginate mold with UltraCal, which is similar to plaster, we have this positive version of him that we can then sculpt prosthetics on, make costumes right off that mold.
So then when it's done, he just puts it on? Is it like a suit of some kind?
Well, it depends on what he wants.
Okay.
Since I think it is a bit of a secret project, I'm not going to say what it is.
Okay.
But the process behind it is once we have the mold, we fill it with plaster, UltraCal, then we have a positive, almost like a sculpture, a maquette of him to every measurement that's true.
Wow.
So from that sculpture of him, we can then add clay on, we can change his appearance drastically, then remold that piece. And then he has a perfect, it could be a mask, it could be a prosthetic wound, a nose, a chin that's different, but it fits perfectly to his measurements.
Frame. Okay, yeah. How long does it take to harden the alginate?
Alginate, it kind of all depends. If the water that you're using to mix with the alginate is warmer, it tends to cure quicker.
Yeah.
So I'll say for the head cast that we did, you start with the alginate. We did it in 2 halves. The alginate probably takes about, safely we'll say, 8-ish minutes to do its thing. Mm-hmm. But then we add a layer of plaster bandage over top to kind of add like a nice secure shell. So once you add that to, I'd say both sides, 2 layers, is probably close to 30 minutes in total. So
he has to sit absolutely still, or like,
yes.
Oh my geez.
As still as possible.
And then the breathing thing, that was the one that freaks me out. Like,
yeah, it kind of makes me like, I'm that person that would probably freak out. I haven't had it done yet to me. I do it to other people. But basically, we leave little tiny nose holes in the mold so he can breathe. If he or she, whoever's having it done, is feeling nervous, we will ask the actor to relax their mouth and leave their mouth open too, and we can make it work with the mouth open.
And the eyes?
The eyes are completely covered. Your ears are completely covered too.
Oh, wait. Doesn't it go in?
It goes in a little bit. And then what's great about the ears is then you have a mold of your ears too. So we can make elf ears. We can make your ears have like Dumbo
Wait, but like in your ear?
A little bit in the ear, yeah. So you can't really hear what's happening. You can't see what's happening. You can't say anything.
I jumped the gun. So tell us a bit about yourself.
My name's Cassie. I moved to Halifax about 5 years ago to go to NASCAD University. I'm originally from the South Shore, from a little town called Shelburne. And when I came to NASCAD, I originally had it set in my mind that I was going to be a tattoo artist, and that's it. That's my calling. I'm going to be a tattoo artist, and I was going to specialize actually in burn victims and people that had scars, kind of like covering scars with tattooing.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like almost like cosmetology in some ways too. And then when I got to NASCAD, I realized I kind of hated painting all of a sudden. I didn't like painting on canvas anymore. But I did start playing with clay. And with clay, it kind of opened up this new window of, working 3D. This is really fun. I can get proportions more accurate than I can drawing with clay, though. And that kind of led into me going into the illustration program at NASCAD. And my professor in the illustration program was very accepting that illustration was not just pen and paper. So I told my professor I was interested in character design, creature design, but I didn't like drawing it. and he was very open-minded to me sculpting these characters instead.
Okay.
So I started making little dolls, posable dolls, which then led into using these posable dolls for stop motion animation.
Oh God, I hate stop motion. Like,
I love
no,
it.
No, wait.
I love
Here's the thing. I love watching stop motion. I hate the whole process of making it.
yeah.
It's like you spend, I don't know, 50 hours to do 2 minutes of work.
Yep. 12 frames per second. Yeah. Yeah, I went from illustration into the animation program, started doing stop motion with puppets that I built. Love that. I love the hands-on part of it. I can't figure out technology and computer stuff to save my life. So.
Wait, so you literally take each photo? Yes. Oh, I thought oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, that's even...
I made the puppets. I helped build the set. My one of my friends and classmates, she helped with the set and figuring out cameras and whatnot. And I think we pulled an all-nighter, put about 53 hours into it.
What was the film called?
We didn't really name it. It was about a little goat named Steve that goes into the woods to have a picnic, and he encounters a dragon, and they become friends. That was the animation.
So you built both characters. Were there other characters in the film?
Pardon?
So it was the goat and the dragon. Did you build any other characters for the film?
I built them. They're all out of wire armature, latex.
How big were they?
The dragon was probably about a foot in length. He had wings and whatnot, so he could flap, he could walk, open and close his mouth. The goat was probably a whole 3 inches high. He walked with 2 legs, and he's pretty cute.
What were their colors?
The goat was just a little white billy goat kind of guy, and the dragon was like a teal, green, and yellow with feathers too. He was a weird dragon.
And so why? I didn't even know about the tattoo of the burn victims thing. I didn't even think of that. Why? Was there a particular reason that was something you really wanted to do?
I think originally, growing up, I was interested in tattooing, and it was one of those things, I feel like it's becoming a little more accepted now. People with tattoos is more common now, but it is something that I was trying to figure out, how can I make this into something that's a little more acceptable? I wanted it to be, I didn't want it to be known as like a tattoo scratcher. Like a scratcher is kind of like a word for someone that's just doing it off like a kitchen counter with like a bad setup. I wanted to make sure I came off as professional. And when I found out about women that had breast cancer, that had the breast removed, they are having the nipple tattooed back on. I thought, that's really cool. Yeah. That's really interesting. And my mom is actually a breast cancer survivor. So that sparked the interest, and I did start pursuing that. I did get a tattoo kit, experimented a little bit, but it just wasn't clicking as much as I thought it was going to. And then when I got to university, everything changed from there.
And so you got into this program, you built your puppets, you did your stop motion. How did that go from that into cosplay?
That's interesting. I think I went to HalCon, I think my second year I was in Halifax. And I fell in love with it. And I just kind of put in the back of my mind, and then when it was coming up closer again, I thought, I can do that too. I can do that.
Oh, you weren't, you didn't have any costume?
I didn't do any cosplaying until one year I decided, I'm going to do it. But then I thought, well, while I'm working on this costume, I'm going to be overwhelmed with schoolwork too. So I went to the fashion professor at NASCAD, his name's Gary, and I said, hey, do you want to do an independent study where I build a cosplay and I get grades for it? He said, yes, I'll take you on. We set up the program at NASCAD, and I built a cosplay and got credits for it in university. And it really sparked the big interest of what else can I do?
Oh, wow. Do you remember what that first one was?
That one, I guess I technically might have done one before that, but it was just kind of experimental. It was before the big spark happened. Yeah. The one that I did for the independent study, her name was Undying, The Undying. Okay. And she's this really cool, badass blue mermaid lesbian knight. She's everything. And she wears this really cool suit of armor. She has scales and gills and like fish ears and stuff. She's really cool. And I just decided, I've never done this before, so let's do everything in one. Let's do sewing, foam, prosthetic makeup, wig maintenance, all in one. And It was a blast. It was an absolute blast. And that really motivated me to keep pushing it.
So, yeah, I mean, it was a very ambitious project, building as the first one. Do you like tackling interesting projects like that? Is that just your nature?
I throw myself into it. I just, yeah. I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to that. I just throw myself in the project. I can do that. And then I deal with the consequences of like, oh God, I actually have no idea what I'm doing. Let's figure it out.
And where do you source the material? Because you said like for that one, you had to do wig and foam and all that.
So Canadian Tire is a great place to start, especially for foam. If you're doing foam armor, you buy they're called anti-fatigue mats, and they're kind of like what you lay down on a gym floor. Oh. And their foam, it's like $20 for a huge roll. So I get some of that, contact cement, power tools from Canadian Tire, just a bunch of different hardware. When it comes to paint, I do believe for that project is mostly dollar store paint that I use because it was cheap and it worked.
Yeah.
Fabric, thankfully, we have some good fabric stores in the area. So I think I sourced mostly from Atlantic Fabrics. They had a good selection of more cheaper fabric. And then the wig was, I do believe, ordered from, what was it, AliExpress? I didn't know much about wigs back then. And so I didn't want to spend, $100+ on a wig and then not really know what I'm doing. I'd rather start out with a cheaper wig and just accept that as a cheaper wig and make it work somehow. So I try to source a lot of local materials as much as I can, but then sometimes you do have to online shop.
And so do you have like a studio? Where do you work?
I work with Neptune Theater and I work for Devo FX, so theater and film. Devo FX is located in Greenwood, which is up in the valley.
Wait, that's far.
That is far, yes.
Because I went, I think last year there was the plane, they do this plane thing.
And
it
the
was
Air
at
Force
Greenwood.
Base,
And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll go. And it was just driving forever.
It's about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
If you're going the speed limit, it's an hour and a half. And so I used to go once a week and I still try to go as much as I can, but work and everything sometimes gets in the way. And so work there, and that's located in the basement of the owner's house, and he has it all set up. We have like a mess room. We have
What's the mess room?
The mess room was originally a wood storage space.
No, what is a mess room?
Mess room would be where we put our plaster, where we put anything that can create a huge mess. And plaster is one of those things that goes everywhere. If we're doing a mold and it starts leaking, we'll just put it in there so it has a safe space to leak out. We have some power tools. We have sculpting tables, painting spaces, makeup table, 3D printer stand as well. So we have a couple of those. So it's a really great space, and it's a small space, but it's all functional, which is really quite lovely. And at Neptune Theater, I work in the prop department there as well. And so we have the basement at Neptune all to ourselves, and it's a really cool space. We have a lot of power tools there, and it's really fun.
So which of the two places did you start working at first?
I started working, Devo FX about a year and a half ago, and then Neptune. I started at Neptune as a bartender, and then I'd say about back in maybe it was like end of February, March, I started working in prop department.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, did the switch.
That's an interesting switch from, here's a drink to, I build that thing on the stage. What productions have you built stuff on for Neptune?
For Neptune, I started with Mamma Mia, and then I moved on to A Drunken God, and then it was sometimes just random projects pop up. So I think it was next after that was Argyle Street Kitchen Party, and that took place over the summer. And then most recently it was Neptune Cinderella.
Oh, yeah.
That one was a blast. Cinderella was really fun.
Now, I mean, you do stuff at Devo and you do stuff at Neptune. That's kind of for work. When you want to build your own project, do you use the space too?
I'm allowed to use the spaces. I tend to probably drift more towards Devo FX. Or, my own space at home. I try to make it work, but Devo FX is kind of like a home to me.
So, you have to sew with a machine, and then you have to build stuff with your hand, and you have to use power tools. So, what was the learning process for those like for each one, did you have to learn one at a time or all at the same time?
I mean, I guess growing up, my dad got me involved with a lot of projects around home. So I had some knowledge of how to use certain saws, certain hand tools. And then whenever a project kind of comes up where you need to have this skill, then that's the time to learn right then and there. If you get thrown into it, either someone will show me how or YouTube has my back.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'll call my mom and ask her how to do some sewing. Whatever works.
And so you've worked with Devil, but actually another question I want to ask. Here's one. When you're working on a project, there's the independent thing. You're kind of dealing with this section, but like I saw yesterday with the plaster, you had two people working kind of on one person at the same time.
Yes.
How does that work? Do you just say, okay, I'm going to deal with this part and then you deal with that part, or?
It's all about teamwork, communication. When we're doing a live cast, we have to all be talking because it also helps the actor who's in the chair know what's happening to him before senses get closed off. Like the ears, you can't hear what's happening more. You have to constantly be interacting because something could go wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think yesterday it was myself, Keith, and Mark working on the head. And I was on plaster bandage duty. I was mixing the alginate. Mark was applying the alginate, same with Keith. And then I would bring them fresh supplies. And it was just kind of like a factory lineup. We were just go, go, go. We need more of this, more of that. I need this. And like, all on top of it.
Yeah, the time lapse was great. I kept trying to pause. Okay, what is happening now? Oh, okay, what is happening now? Well, it was fast though, but it freaked me. I don't think I'd ever do that.
No?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think you could do it.
No,
I think you
like
could.
I think. I mean, I don't think I have issues with sitting down and chilling, but not being able to see or hear stuff is gonna freak me out. But I guess if you think of the results, you can be whatever you want to create. But it's scary.
Once it's done once, you never have to do it again, though.
Ever?
Ever. As long as we keep that positive of the mold in good shape, you never have to get your head done again.
Oh, so just one time. I guess this is what happened. So as a kid, right? Mm-hmm. I remember seeing the making of Michael Jackson's Thriller. Yes.
My boss, Mark, actually watched the making of back to back over and over again. He loved it.
That was I think that was one of the first things that made me realize I want to make film.
Yeah.
So I watched that thing. It freaked me out. I'm like, I don't know, 7, whatever. Anyway, it freaked me out. And then I saw, the video was great. Everybody loved it. And then you see what goes behind it.
Yes.
And I got super interested in it. Like, they built this whole thing. And then it becomes that, and he's doing this crazy dance, because as a kid, I kept thinking the face is going to fall off.
Yeah.
It didn't.
It didn't. It's all that glue. Just a lot of glue.
Know. I was like, oh my God, that's pretty decent though. But here's the thing though. Being that you deal with props and stuff people hold, what do you think of CGI?
Ooh, that's a really interesting discussion because I did actually a university lecture project on it. So CGI and practical effects. I work in practical effects. I have no knowledge on how to do anything CGI. But from my point of view, I think there's a way to marry both of them. I think there's a way to use them both correctly together. A really great example of this would have been in one of the newer Star Wars movies. If you watch behind the scenes, they had this character that was wearing this huge silicone creature suit with a huge mask and everything. And he could move. He can move his mouth a bit. However, at the end, they used CGI to help add some more facial expressions that the silicone was not able to do. But they still kept the suit. They didn't go over everything. They just added, we're going to add an extra blink here. We're going to add an extra lip curl here. So in those cases, I think it works really well. I think some producers get a little carried away with CGI, and with that issue, we know when something isn't real. Our brains can pick up on the gravity in a film. So if I were to throw this mug on the table across and hit the wall, it's going to shatter, it's going to break a certain way, and we're going to see it happen and know that it happened true to gravity. However, with CGI, it is extremely hard to get that absolutely perfect, and it's possibly near impossible to get it perfect, and our brains can pick up on it. And that's why I always feel slightly a little off watching a movie that's completely CGI, is because the gravity doesn't make sense to what's happening.
So what's his name first? Let's start with that.
His name's Trico.
And how long did he take to build?
He took about 10 months to make.
Okay. What? What was the process?
This is kind of similar to how I made Undyne, where I thought, I've never done this before. I've never made a puppet before. Let's make a puppet. And that's what I did. And it was a lot of research, a lot of trial and error, and this was the end result.
Okay, so what is Trico made out of?
Trico is made of blood, sweat, and hot glue. A lot of hot glue. But he's mostly made out of foam, very lightweight materials, a lot of fake fur, felt, and chicken wire.
And his mouth, nose?
His mouth is actually made out of upholstery foam that I carved, and then I covered in rubber spray.
How does... Yeah, you know what I remember seeing it in its little thing, and I felt it would be heavy to carry, and it just, it's super light.
He's not too bad. The only thing is that, inside, my arm is what's operating the head, and once you do this for more than, half an hour, you really start to feel it. He only weighs about maybe 8 pounds, but when you're doing it with just one arm,
continuous.
Yeah, you start to feel it.
And his eye, he blinks.
Yep. He's a pull cable puppet as well. So he's a hand puppet. My hand operates the mouth.
Yeah.
But he's a pull cable puppet, so my other hand is operating the eyes underneath his tummy.
And what's his horns made out of?
The horns are made of pink insulation foam that I carved with a Dremel.
Okay, so why did it take 10 months? How did he start?
He started with just an idea, and originally he was actually supposed to sit on my shoulder and be a shoulder puppet. And that didn't quite work because I realized my measurements, he would have to be huge to match the length of my arms and everything. So I switched to this version and started drawing up a plan. I did another independent study at NASCAD with a different professor, and this is what I got credits for.
Oh.
Another great cosplay project at NASCAD. And it was just a lot of research. I actually met with a gentleman that worked for Jim Henson working on Muppets. Oh, wow. And he showed me a couple tips and tricks, some blueprints of other Muppets and how they worked, and took the inspiration and the knowledge that he showed me and put them in this puppet. And then once I joined DevOFX, Mark at DevOFX showed me a couple things to add to the puppet as well.
Yeah, I keep wondering how come his ears, how did he get him to just stand and not flap around?
Hot glue. Hot glue, quite truthfully. Yeah, it was really interesting working on him too, because the character in the video game called The Last Guardian is kind of like a griffin / hippogriff meets Clifford the Big Red Dog. He's the size of a house. I can't make something the size of a house. It doesn't fit anywhere. So I decided to make a baby version of the character. So that involved doing some research on kittens, puppies, what makes them look cute and adorable. And one of the continuing trends with puppies and kitties, whatever, were big ears that don't fit them quite yet. So I enlarged his ears. I gave him bigger eyes and extra cute features.
Yeah. And his wings?
His wings are kind of pathetic looking, so they would look like a baby bird. So you can't fly.
There's someone, he has claws on his feet.
Yep.
Yes? Is that also from insulation? Is that the same thing that his horns are made out of?
They're made of Sculpey clay, just because I can't see the feet when I'm operating him. So I didn't want to accidentally bump into something and have them snap, where upholstery foam would snap a little bit easier, I think. So the Sculpey clay was a more durable solution.
And I want to ask, I remember he was a hitter. How come?
Yes.
How was the feedback, especially from the kids?
It was crazy. It was crazy. I didn't quite, I had to use his ear to brush my hair out of my face because I have no arms. I remember he was finished 2 hours, I think, before the convention started. So I pulled an all-nighter. And my boyfriend, he helped, put him on. There's a clip mechanism to strap him onto my belt. Oh, okay. And I remember walking through the doors to HalCon, and everyone's mouths just dropped because I couldn't figure out how it worked. And people were reaching across the line trying to pet him, wanting to hug him, wanting to scratch his chin, scratch his ears. It was overwhelming, but in a really good way.
He's super cute.
Yeah.
And his big black eyes, what are those made of?
They're actually made of thermoplastic.
What's that?
Thermoplastic is also known as warbler. And it's basically a plastic that when you heat it up to a certain temperature, it can kind of be used like a clay.
Yeah.
And then when it cools, it keeps that form.
So when you heat it up, how do you play with it?
You use a heat gun to usually heat it up. And then I think for his eyes, I just push the sheet of plastic over a round object. I think it was just like a ball to get that round shape. And it's easy to drill through as well.
So, I mean, I don't think you worked every day for 10 months on this.
Not quite, no.
Okay, so like what would be the average spurts you'd work on?
I'd say like 10 months. It was a lot of like research in that time, looking at materials, going and trying things, restarting, trying something new, restarting. They like went through many different versions, many ruined versions. But I feel like I would, in spurts, I'd spend 2 days pulling all-nighter, then stop for another couple days, come back to it, 2 more days all-nighter, break something, take a week away from it, calm down, go back to it. Yeah, it was a whole process.
Did it ever get frustrating?
Oh, frustrating him? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's big, he's awkward. My arm gets sore. He doesn't work sometimes. And
Wait, when he's like, what doesn't work? The eyes or what?
the eyes will just, depending on the day, he just won't want to work anymore.
And wait, do you have to actually go in and fix something or just start working again?
I just hope I'm fixing the right thing, and we try again. And he lasts another few months. And since it's my first puppet, I didn't quite know how to plan for disasters. I just built it and hoped for the best. So it's always something to tweak here and there.
Like, are you still doing some work on him or is he done?
I think he's done.
Oh, okay,
yeah, he's about 2 years old now, and yeah, he's lasted 2 years, which is pretty good.
Yeah. Because was it? Oh, it was. So wait, which? Oh yeah, it was 2 years ago. Because last year you were the bull girl,
Yes,
right?
I was Aloy.
Oh yeah, that's what I want to talk about. But anyway, let's finish with this guy. And so what? When he's done, like, how do you recycle him? I guess. What's the process of that?
So I usually just put him in a big plastic bin. I put him on a shelf. I don't really have any plans to ever throw him out or sell him because I find he's pretty important to me in the sense that once I built him, I realized that I was really interested in, practical effects, but most specifically, I was interested in puppetry and film, using puppets and creatures and operated by people.
Talking of Jim Henson, there is the new movie. I've not seen it yet, but something. So it's like the Muppets, but like they are raunchy.
Is that Dark Crystal Eye?
No. It's with the comedian.
Yes, I've seen the trailer.
The trailer, yeah.
It seems like an adult version of the Muppets. Very adult. Do not take your kids to the movie theater to see this production.
Actually, I think it's R. I think it's R because it's crazy. So it's like these Muppets are getting killed, and then she has to investigate it, and her partner is a Muppet, and anyway. So what will be the next puppet you build?
I'm not sure right off. I need to plan that out. I mean, I've played with the ideas of, since so many people, when they see Trico, they think, oh, never-ending story, Falcor. I'm thinking, that'd be pretty cool. But, Falcor is also, slightly creepy in some ways. I find him slightly creepy, so...
He's eyelashes of... Weird.
Yeah. He's like a wacky dragon. And, there's also the idea, a hippogriff from Harry Potter would be really cool because they thought Trico was a hippogriff, and... Yeah, that'd be really fun, but nothing really set in stone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because, and it's another 10 months to do something like that. Wait, so with the lessons you've learned, would that shorten the 10 months?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
If I were to remake him, it would probably take 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's more than half. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't regret taking 10 months because it was all about the process and what you learned from it and learn for your mistakes big
What was
time.
your grade for this guy? Because it was for school, right?
I think I got an A+.
So I was like 1 for 2 because you got an A+, and then it was a hit at
Yeah.
Halicon. I keep calling Halicon.
Halicon. That's a good name for it.
I keep calling Halicon.
Yeah.
So, and his bandana, that is striking because it's, I mean, his feet's pink, I guess, but like his orange bandana, you can't miss that.
The orange bandana was kind of like a last minute decision, I think, at the Geekwinox convention that happened back in April. Normally when I'm using Trico, I have a fake arm that I attach to the outside that fits into a sleeve. So it looks like I'm actually using both arms to hold him, which fools the eye again. But when I don't have the fake arm on, I just like to throw the bandana on as like a little extra something.
What's the fake? Like you put a fake arm in a sleeve?
I have it in the pail over there. It's a silicone mold of my hand using the same technique that we used.
So you had your hand in the thing?
Yep. In the silicone, made a positive of it.
Yeah, I guess I can make my hand, but I won't put my face in that thing, no.
Little too much.
Yeah, Toriko is brilliant, but I remember Toriko was two years ago.
Yes.
Last year, you were the girl with the bow with the warrior thing.
Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. Yes.
How did that come about?
That's just kind of it's very spontaneous. My brother was telling me about this video game, saying, you should play it, you should try it, I love it. And I was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, well, sometime, okay. And it went on sale, and I just bought it on a whim, and then I fell in love with the main character head over heels, thought she was amazing. And once I beat the game, I knew automatically that was going to be the project for next year. It was a big sewing project. I didn't really know how to do a lot of sewing, so I thought this is an opportunity to start learning how to become a better seamstress. And there's a lot of prop work, a lot of foam armor, thermoplastics. It's just a mixed media project, and oh, she was a blast.
Yeah,
Just an absolute blast.
And I like how you were pretty much taking your followers through the journey of building his armor. And like when you got I don't know what to call it, but you built this little thing for the legs.
Yes, the leather armor.
Exactly.
And the bigger pieces. Yeah.
How long did that take to make?
For the entire costume, it took about 9 months, just because there was a lot of detail work that took a long time. And the thing with the game creators, they're called Guerrilla Games, I do believe, made the game. They're all about detail with their costume design. When you zoom in on Aloy in the game, all of a sudden you realize, oh, everything's hand stitched with this type of embroidery, and there's this detail here, and she has this and that. Her hair has this bead in it. There's just so many little details that you have to pay attention to. And so it just took so long. Everything took extra amount of time because there's so many fine details. And that was a big challenge, was time for that one.
And the bow?
And the bow was 3D printed, actually. Is my first 3D printed prop. The file was originally bought by the cosplayer called Cosplay. She built the bow, then she put the file up for sale. So I bought the file, put it into my friend Nathan's printer, and we printed it together, and he showed me how to finish it, sand it, paint it properly, which involved, epoxy and a bunch of different materials, and it actually works too.
Yeah.
Not well, but you can actually fire an arrow about 2 feet.
How many pieces does the bow have?
Oh man, the bow has about, I want to say close to probably 30 pieces, and then they all go together. But truthfully, I lost so many pieces in the process I had to keep pre-printing them because I one would slide underneath the sofa, one would go underneath the table. Oh, where's the piece? Let's reprint it. So I probably went through 50 plus pieces to make one.
How much time did you spend on just the bow?
The bow, oh my gosh. I thought originally making this bow was going to be a walk in the park, because originally my opinion was 3D printing's kind of easy, right? It's kind of easy. It's not. It's really not. It was lengthy. There were many moments where I would make mistakes and had to restart some things, and the bow took a solid 2 weeks of labor. Yeah.
And
Like-
printing time alone was how long?
I think to print the file was about 14 hours, I do believe. And then it's just so many hours of sanding. Because the file, when you 3D print something, it has all these layer marks on it. You can see every single layer it took to make that one piece. And you have to sand it all the way to make it look nice and smooth. So it's just hours and hours, many late nights, and
So it was just you and Nathan that worked on the boat?
it was myself and Nathan, yeah. He taught me how, and because he's used to 3D printing, it was all new to me, so it was that learning curve, and yeah, we were up late a few times.
And how was the feedback at Halcon?
Good. A lot of people were very interested in the bow, especially because it did look like it worked. And when I posed for photos, I could draw it back and have it spring back to its shape. So photographers were super interested in it. People wanted to take videos of it actually moving. Yeah, it's really cool. Also, how it's put together is it uses bolts. So if I'm traveling somewhere, I can take the bolts out and it kind of collapses. Yeah.
I want to ask, how do you think when it comes to art and creating stuff, the using social media, that social media aspect of it, is it good, bad? What's your thoughts on that?
That's a really good question. Social media is kind of a new thing for me with art. I think in this day and age, social media is a really good tool to use to get your name out there. That's how, I got into connection with DevOFX. That's one way. That's how some work has come in for me, is because people find me on social media and they see my work and it gets shared. And it's really great in that sense, but it's also really important not to let it go to your head and hyper focus on the social media. How many likes you get per photo, how many followers. And there's been times where I've had to take a step away from it and kind of tell myself to relax, not think so much about it. I put so many hours into Aloy. I'm going to upload this picture I think is really cool. And then it doesn't get as many likes as I thought it was going to do. And it's very easy to get into this position of like beating yourself up. Because, my photo didn't get this many shares or likes, and it means I'm a bad artist, and but it really doesn't. It really doesn't matter how many likes and stuff you get on it. And I think that's where social media can be bad for a lot of artists, is because they can get caught up in it. But I think it is a good tool at the same time, just about not overusing it, not thinking so hard into it and getting carried away.
Yeah, and talking about getting carried away, the other thing I see art like therapy for me. Like when I'm in a bad headspace, creating kind of centers me. And one of the things, a few weeks ago, a friend died by suicide, and he's an artist, and it's shocking when that happens, right? How do you think, in your opinion, we could use art to help more people, especially going through mental challenges?
That's a really good topic, because I will talk about DevOFX again. At DevOFX, we actually offer a sculpting program there for veterans of PTSD, where veterans can go and sculpt for free with Mark. And it's a really good space to kind of relax and get out of a bad mind space in an environment that's very calming, accepting. You're using your hands. It's very hands-on, it's involving, and it really helps you being creative. And I think that's at DevOFX, but we can bring that into maybe schools more, high schools, more programs offered around the city too, of drop-in nights that are free. Free or affordable.
Yeah.
Where you go in and just try something new. I think it's really important. And there's been studies done to show how important it is to be hands-on and doing craft, and how it is so important for mental health.
Yeah, actually, when you just mentioned that, I think it just came full circle. I remember who he is. A few years ago, I watched a movie. I can't remember the title now, but it had this monster, and it was like the monster is supposed to represent the PTSD this military guy was going through.
Yes.
And he's with his friends, like his family, sorry. But he's somewhere else, right? So he goes to buy meat, but he's in his head, he's like where people are dying, and I think it's Mark that actually, a friend of mine directed it, but it was really kind of about Mark, and Mark builds this thing, this huge
Might have been
monster.
that. Yeah.
What's the title of the film? Anyway, the guy that acted in that film, I mean, once I saw him, I knew I wanted to work with him. And then I reached out to him about this film I was working on. I was like, yeah, sure, he's going to do it. And it was great. And I think what Mark is doing is really, really commendable because we need things like this.
You do.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, one of the artists that I really looked up to, her name was Mary E. Black, and she was one of the first artists to introduce art therapy into hospitals for people coming back from the war with PTSD. That was originally called shell shock. Also for the where they call the sanatoriums for people with tuberculosis, when people would have to go there to be quarantined as they went through TB. My grandfather being one of them. She actually introduced leather work and craft work into these hospitals. So when you're there, 15 plus months, you learn a craft and it helps keep you occupied. And it really helped the patients go through that time, no matter if it's tuberculosis or you're in the hospital dealing with mental health, at home dealing with mental health, wherever it is, having something to do that stimulates your body, your mind. It's really important.
I agree. And what keeps you going?
What keeps me going?
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting question. I got to think about that now. I think I've been described as intense before. I've been described as intense because I go after things. And originally when someone called me intense, I took offense to it. I was really not happy with being called that. But then I realized it is because I'm very motivated. I want to do this. I want to just do it. Stop saying you're going to do it and just do it. And I think it's just looking back and remembering that when I was called intense, I didn't like it at first. But then I realized it was really good to be called intense. That's not a bad thing at all. I was just passionate about what I was doing. And I really like also just encouraging other people to try stuff and pushing them and kind of like practice what you preach. If I'm teaching a class to someone art, I gotta tell them to keep pushing themselves. And I gotta remember to do that for me too. And just remembering to push yourself, and things don't happen if you don't make them happen.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to end it on that. Thanks very much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening.